Um,
And
oh,
and
okay,
and
cool.
then here is the presentation. Come on, go big. All right, now, ready?
Yep, got it.
Okay, so in moving through love, think of it as physical action, whether you're showing in your writing or telling in your writing. It's not just kissing and sex and grabbing stuff. There's ways to show that as I get to know this person, my physical touching and how I interact with them with my touch gives you an idea of how my feelings are. So it's evidence that my feelings are changing over time, or good or bad. That's what we're talking about. So I want you to think about, we're going to start with some images of couples. And by the way, none of my images are X-rated, even though we get to phases where these people have clearly had sex. As you go through all the images, have a notebook or something because it might flare an idea for you. Because I tried to capture images of lovers in this state I'm talking about. So I'm trying to give you a visual, and as I talk to you and as we go through these things, if an idea hits you, capture it because I found that especially if a love story that you're trying to repair or enhance, the ideas will strike as we go through these actions. So 6 or 7 couples. Tell me how intimate you are in your thoughts. Think about this. Couple number one. And when I talk about intimacy, how connected are they? How well do they know each other? And how safe do they feel? And think about this as I am dating someone who could be my potential long-term romantic partner. And as I'm building trust with them, there are physical ways I show that I feel safe with them and I trust them. So on this picture, what does it take for someone to lay their head in your lap? In this picture, these could be friends talking or they could be lovers. Who can rest their hand on your upper thigh? In this picture, who can you lounge around the house with in your underwear and lay like this with? Also notice her proximity to his genital area and where his arm is resting. Who can rest their arm or put their head there? This couple or not, I ask you, how many chairs are in the room? And if you were in a working environment, whether it's an external work environment or a work from home environment, and you have your partner as your work partner as well, what kind of relationship would you have to sit in each other's lap and work together, same computer, same screen, collaborating on all levels? Same couple you saw them earlier. I want you to look at them. I want you to notice how close they are, the looks on their faces. And I want you to notice how they're connected to each other. They are interlaced fingers holding hands. And one of the things to think about modern, if your love story is modern or current, she's holding her phone because she's getting ready to call someone, or she's holding her phone because she doesn't have a pocket to tuck it away. Because if a lover is truly intent on the other lover, phones don't matter. I'm busy with my lover. This last picture, I just want to show this to you. What kind of person or relationship would you be in to read the same book at the same time? Do you take turns with the pages? Do you think they both can see the same page? And then my last comment say, besides sitting on the couch this way for long periods, what does the state of the feline, of the cat, tell you about how calm these two humans are? That's what I get at. So the source of this comes from Desmond Morris. He observed behaviors in humans in all ways. He's the one that coined the term the human animal or the naked ape, and he did a whole series on how humans pair bond with BBC in the early aughts. The stuff we're kidding from comes from his book Intimate Behavior. Desmond Morris was a primate biologist and worked at the London Zoo and did various other things. But he took it upon himself, and I don't know what got him started, but if you research him, he started observing humans as if we were animals. And throughout the world, many cultures, and that's what his BBC documentary is about. He has been studying us as humans for years. And his book on intimacy, which, by the way, has been used in some psychology things, like if you have counseling or have relationship problems, this is a source for it, because it's biological data. He found that, like body language, There are things we do as humans that are the animal brain, and they will happen in a very consistent way across the earth, regardless of culture, regardless of age, or whoever. When we're starting to feel safe with someone, when we build a relationship with someone, there are certain things that we do almost universally. Note, there are cultural limitations to everything. So as you look at this list, and he also talked about how we feel safe with our mother and how we feel safe with our friends. But if you think in terms of a pair bond, as in a long-term, two people, or well, directly more, but two people in a long-term relationship for the purpose of staying together to raise children, this is what he's talking about. And if you see on the 12 steps and in the handout, we start by looking at what we want. As humans, we start talking. And then as we start interacting more and more, we reach for these things, we get closer to these things, we start touching. And so we all know how to break the ice and talk. We all know what the long look is across the room. But as we start to get closer to each other, we start touching. And the way we touch and where we touch is an effort to get to know someone and their safety and our safety. And so, for instance, if you were in a grocery store and someone grabbed you from behind, what happens? It scares us, okay? There are touches that make us feel threatened, our claws and our teeth, and they can be grabbed and moved. So if you think about early humans and how we act, we're hardwired to go for safety. And when it comes to intimacy, the safer I feel with you, the closer you can get to me, and the more you can do with me or to me, and I'm okay. So we're going to start with the words. Because depending on your love story and depending on your book and where you're putting love story along the plot, anybody who has not met another person, it's going to start with looks. And there's going to be something about the other person that catches their eye. And this includes if they're looking at someone they know in a different way. So, like enemies to lovers, or best friends to lovers, or lovers trying it again. I look at them and something's different. And this is where attraction starts and interest starts. So, any good love story, especially if you're starting going up, it's going to start by looking at the other person and thinking about them. And so this is your foundation. So it's looks and thoughts. Step one, something about them catches it. The way Desmond Morris puts it is our eyes to them or their body. Something about them. And if you heard people talk about they're a leg man, or we really like his biceps, okay, something about them's caught our eye. It can be the shining hair, it can be the eyes. If we're looking electronically or long distance, profile pictures, the voice sounds can be the attraction. Something about them has caught me. I'm listening. And so the situations this happens, and I have contemporary modern romance, but this works for anything. In the spaceship, on top the back of the dragon, in the castle with the wizards, however it is, across the room, over there, I see that. I see you. And my interest is caught. Whiff of attraction. Here's picture number one. Look at this group of people. Imagine if you're writing this scene, whether you're showing or telling, doesn't matter. Focus on the gal in the middle, wearing a white miniskirt. She's holding a camera and she's got a black long sleeve t-shirt on. She is not looking at the guy on the left who's talking. Who is she looking at? What is she thinking? Lay it out for us. Now, her face doesn't look very excited, but she might just be thinking, she could have this look because I have one, but I like that. Interesting. She's starting to get tempted. This one, I'm showing you, these are all by the way canvas, it's the same pictures. This is a group of youngsters. That could be college kids, that could be workers. I just want to point out the gal on the far right. Her body language, that grin, the way she's got her hips kind of tucked this way, and she's got a foot forward. She is liking what she sees, and we don't know who she's looking at. It could be the guy holding the coffee or the girl in the sweater across the way, but she's going, I like this. And it could be what they're talking about, but it very well could be what she sees. And if you're writing a meet cute scene, what is it she digs? That cheesy grin, that, ooh, yeah, there, she like it. Me likey. Same idea. I just want you to focus on the interactions between the guy on the left holding the jar and the two ladies in the chairs, the one with the green pants and the white shoes who's looking up at him. Just look at them too. They are both looking. And the last one, this is again an office setting. Whether or not your characters are the two dudes standing in front or the people sitting and looking up at them, any one of the four people are looking at these two guys. It's work, so they're clearly looking at them. But if this is a office romance, who are they looking at and what are they thinking? So, for your notes, as you think about this, I've looked at this person, something's attracted me to them. What am I saying, thinking, and doing? Here are the common examples. And these are the kind of thoughts and situations your characters are in. So show me looking, describe what they're seeing, help me put me in their body so I know what they're doing with their eyes. Is their head cocked? Are they leaning in? I need to get over there. Will they look over here? Look at that. So next is eye to eye. And this is where we start with consent. If you have ever been in a party or a bar and you see someone you like, you maybe going to flirt, you look at them, they catch you, you make eye contact. If they turn away or look or duck or move, they're not interested. Okay, that's just how it is. So if they look back though, that's when we start approaching. And this is where we're getting close to where the looks are going to stop. And when we get close enough to talk, we will. And if it's a really fast moving dating app, this is the swipe right. At the swipe right, I think I'm going to go more, and then I'm going to instant message, and that's when I start talking. So across the way, side by side, you're new. What about you? And if it's reciprocal, they are going to look back. They're going to signal their readiness by looking back at you and keeping eye contact. And they might let you, as you approach, they might talk back at you. And this works for friends as well as lovers. They're saying that, oh, I see you, come on over almost, or oh, okay, if you come over here, I'm ready. So, but I want to show you these loving looks. This one, imagine a work project and all of a sudden the talking about work stops and the looking happens on both parts and something has taken them off the work thing and they're just staring at each other. There's your meet cute, man. Working on a project and all of a sudden, bingo. Same idea in this picture. And I want to give a setting of this one. What if she was sitting there like this the whole time and he finally turned to talk to her and noticed, and that stopped him and caught his attention. He paused, noticing her head was cocked and noticed how long her eyelashes were. He stopped. This is where you can, all of a sudden someone's looking at you. You're like, oh, they're looking at me. And same idea here, all friends or family, but as this is a couple, are they happy with what they're seeing? How is their body language? Give me that feeling of, wow, I like her. Same idea here. Again, pick your couples. Are these two buddies talking and their partners are listening? Or are these a couple and the two friends are watching? Is this a love triangle? Maybe there's a MMF going on. Okay. What are they thinking? Who are they looking at? And when you look eye to eye, as you start to get to talking, you're thinking something like, hey, and they'll smile, they'll wink, they'll gesture. And actually, as humans, we move closer because we're interested. So if you've been I'm just going to say this, if you've been in a dating situation, a bar situation, a party, or even at work, and someone starts to crowd your personal space, they might actually be feeling attraction to you and you are not. So they're looking at you and they're seeing if you'll look them back and they're going to keep approaching you to kind of get your attention. And that's why we have to move away. And by the way, when it comes to sexual harassment at work, you can't get away. And this is the start of when you get that uncomfortable. They won't back off. They keep staring at me because they're feeling attraction. And that's why I said consent starts here. Just back off. I'm looking away. Don't come near. So this is where words start. And I think in general, the first conversations are awesome because we always start with small talk. Why are you here? What are you doing? What do you want to do? It's always the start of exploring. And this is where we start the meat and potatoes of the actual story. Because everybody can have small talk and like we get a cheesy line like, oh, I'm done, and then we back away. But if it builds up, the conversation starts. So voice to voice. We have seen them, they've looked back at us, we approach it, and now we're in speaking distance and we start talking. And it includes if call me, and this includes instant messaging on dating apps, etc., social DMs, whatever. So, and this is the kind of things I want you to think about on the left. We're here together, we're learning and sharing. And if you have a love story where you want me to really focus on how much they have in common, let's explore this. Let's have them start to really connect because the sex is only part of a love story. Why I'm with this person, there are things I liked about him that I liked about him from the very beginning. Lay him out here. About me, about me. And so again, same kind of people. Imagine this is that work meeting we saw earlier, and she was staring at him, and now she's starting to talk to him. See how engaged she is? See how engaged he is? What would you put if you were captioning this conversation? And look at that smile and imagine the coffee date, which would be the next thing. This is a possible work group, and we don't know who's work partners or life partners. But what if someone started talking and it got a little flirty and you took it after work? You took it after hours. Clearly, they're in suits. This could be FBI agents, it could be people just at office, but they're drinking wine. It's probably dinner time, and a work dinner becomes a reason to get together. This one, I just want to show you that this is more advanced conversation because look at his face and look at her face. And as your reader, she's going, but she hasn't got her, she's not backing away, she's not turning away, she's just like, really? You know what I mean? She's kind of doubting, and he has to kind of persuade her. This is part of conversation. Small talk is passed, and I do not do that. And then this one, this is more like it's a tense conversation. I'm not sure I'm going to go there. And then this one is, I just want on this one as far as conversations. Think about what she can see on his face. She cannot see his mouth, but she can see his eyes crinkle, okay? And so if you have somebody where maybe they're one of the people are unsure about the others, he is smiling at what she's saying, and he might be hiding it with the teacup or just drinking, but she can tell he's smiling, okay? Make that clear because maybe he's laughing at her or maybe he's just charmed. We do not know unless you tell us. And then here's that other couple again. Here would be the next thing. Now he's on the other side, and she's like, do it this way. So these are the kind of things they say and do. The conversing starts. You can build their dialogue as they start to get to know each other. And their gestures will start to become more reaching towards them. They'll start leaning together. They'll actually probably move closer to each other without knowing it. It's going to be unconscious. She found he was in her space, and all of a sudden his face was next to hers. And then you get into the concepts where they start to get to down to real truths about each other, like my mother died, that's why I moved here, or I didn't know you did that. You start to dig into the facts. And this is where having met at the bar, you've now moved to a table to eat dinner, and it's been 2 hours and you're still talking. And this is where the actions are. And this is the part where I want you to have this in your heart, because we can all write a good scene where they talk, we can have a meet. But how that meeting gets to kissing, how that kissing gets to clothes come off, and how the clothes come off becomes sex, there are things that we are looking for as humans because we are human animals and we know these things, that if you don't give it to your readers cannot believe your love story. And if the love story is important to your plot or it's a romance, you must convince your readers that it's real, and you can do that with actions as well as thoughts and words. So from here on, imagine how they're doing this as they're saying where they are. Other thing I want to tell you, everything that lovers do is a cumulative process, and it's an iterative process. They keep building on it. So once they start looking at each other, they'll keep looking at each other. Once they start talking, they'll keep talking. And once they start touching, they'll keep touching. That's why people who've been together for years and have 10 kids and clearly have sex will still hold hands, because this is still my person. I still want to be connected with them. And so look at this picture right here. How would you describe these lovers? They are clearly not saying a thing. And who knows if you're given thoughts, but you could describe these two people in your book to let your readers know what the lovers are doing. So hand to hand. So we have so far looked, seen, looked back, talked. The first physical touch to test somebody is we reach with our hands. We might taste these things and we might get closer. So hand to hand. That is why people might reach out and touch a hand. If you see if the second date in your meet cute, your book that starts with a meet cute is at a restaurant and she touches the salt shaker hand to hand, I'm reaching out to them because I want to have some sort of physical contact. I like them enough from how we've talked and what I've seen. I want to start to touch. Okay. And this is the situations when they start touching. They want to be closer. They're reaching out subconsciously, even. Hand holding. So, what kind of handhold is this? What does this tell you about these two people? Why is it different than a regular handhold? Describe the interlacing, for instance. Another handhold. Now, there's some other clues here. There's a wedding ring involved, and they could be coming together or pulling apart. But the long lingering come together, they're really drawing it out. They're staring at each other and they're just the contacts are just really relishing it. Um, a double handhold, he's really got her. And how do I know that? Because he's holding her safe using both hands. And by the way, about yourself, if you ever have held hands with someone, how much of your attention is on them if you're using both hands? You can signal someone really caring because they're so focused that their hands are both of them on there. When the arms are around you and both hands are busy, when both hands are involved and our feet are touching, everything's involved, that's the idea. So the kind of things that happen at hand to hand, they might consider consciously or unconsciously holding hands before they do it. They kind of feel the impulse. So if you're thoughting this, you really wanted to hold her hand. She really wanted to hold her hand. Okay, give us that. And one or both will reach out. And this is where consent will keep going all along because dating is a series of maybes to get a hard no or a pretty good yes. At hand to hand, you reach out to hold, they may pull away or they may clasp you back. It's like a kiss. Do they kiss you back? When you hold hands, do they hold your hand back? And as their connection grows, how often, how long, how interlaced will escalate. And eventually they'll get to a point where, depending on their mood, they will always interlace their fingers or they will always hold hands. And for fun, next time you're at the movies or a grocery store and you see couples and moms and babies, who's holding hands? And how are they holding hands? And watch their body language and how I'm going to call out our lovely Liz and how she is with her guy. I've seen them hold hands. So, and the hands will rest on each other. They're staying in contact by hands. So watch that and look at these couples and think, how loving are they to each other? Now, I also want to say some couples like hand holding, some don't. And sometimes culturally you show it and sometimes you don't. Okay, now we get to shoulders. Here we are. Of our 12 steps, we have held hands, and I now can get closer to the person. And think about where, if your hands are on your shoulders, my neck is vulnerable, my vital organs are vulnerable. I am in reach of you. If you have a weapon, you're now in my personal space. And if you were going to gut knife me, you could. Arm to shoulder is just that much closer because you can hold hands and both be at arm's length. But shoulder, you're both moving into the point that your space between each other's got very close. And wherever you are, you're starting to touch. And it goes from hand to shoulder. And usually one, and then we start using both. So just some shoulder grabs. Show this. In this particular scene, what does a corduroy short shirt feel like under fingertips? If this was a neoprene futuristic sci-fi suit, would it be smooth? Would it be sticky? Would it feel like silicone? Her leather jacket feels like what? If this was a scene where he had a different look on his face, they are side by side. If he's given someone another look or the side eye or rolling his eyes, she can't see it. And you can add tension by the fact that his hand says he cares, but his face says he doesn't. Also, the shoulder is the sign of the movie stretch and hug. Because we hold hands, then we sit next to each other somewhere, and then the hand goes over, and we reach over and have a half hug by the shoulders. And this one I want to point out, dancing does some of this without permission and out of order sometimes. Waltzing was inflammatory for a reason because we're touching before maybe we've even talked. As an example of dichotomy in the lovers, look at her face and her hands. We cannot see his face. But what does his right arm tell you about how all in he is with this embrace? He is barely holding her left hand. He is not using both hands, and he is actually a little bit stiff and held away from her. Is he a paid dancer? Does he really want to be in the room with her? And the things that happen, I said like half hugs. This is a good way for the end of the third or fourth date to give a quick hug and go. Um, they usually it's a side hug because we haven't got to where we can be nose to nose, toes to toes, belly to belly yet, but we're real close. And then the arm to waist. This is 6. This is halfway. And I want to point out, teenagers, arm to waist is normal. And notice we haven't kissed yet. If you see kids walking down the high school hall and they have hands around the waist, especially the back of the waist, they are simply that comfortable with each other. They'll touch the shoulders or touch the hands. They're touching body. They're not touching any genitalia. They're not kissing, possibly. They're simply keeping in contact with each other. And the middle of the back is a safe place to rest, and you know where they are at all times. And you're that close that you are arm in arm almost, and you're using your hand, you're holding onto them, their whole body with that one hand. So here's an example. Now, in this case, she's not holding him back, but her face doesn't signal to me that she's not happy. She just might not be to step 5 or 6 yet. She might just be, I'll let you do this to me, but I'm not sure I want to reciprocate quite yet. And you know how that's what happens as you build a relationship. We are catching up with each other every step. I want to show this. If I want to do a scene where something's going to happen to my lovers, like a murder mystery or horror, think about the level of intimacy in these two guys. They're sitting here on the couch watching a movie like this when the slasher comes in. Imagine that. Imagine this, right? One shot and you can get them both because they're sitting that close. This is another version of it. I want to point out, though, arm or shoulder, they kind of mix. In this particular case, he happens to be holding her around her waist and she's holding around the shoulders. That could be their height discrepancy. But also, if I'm holding her lower, I can push her right against the you know what. So arm to waist, the kind of things they're thinking and doing. They'll reach out, they'll grab, they'll go on the other side. They're basically crossing the whole body. So like if you imagine how close you have to be someone, their right arm is on your right side. You are in their zone. And belly hugs, half hugs sometimes, and especially like the doing dishes hug from behind, driving the spaceship, giving the captain a hug from behind. That's where we are, arm to waist. And notice we haven't kissed because that's step 7. If your hands have been able to touch the shoulders and the waist, and you're still talking, you're still looking at each other, you'll start to hand away. And technically it's taste, but we're starting to explore this human. And especially in America, we're all about kissing. Not every society is all about the kissing, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. You need to have a good open mouth kiss with someone you love before you die. Okay. A good makeout session is awesome for a reason. Okay. And some lovers will separate sex from makeouts because they enjoy them equally as well and they don't have to hurry either one. So mouth to mouth. And Eskimo kisses count. They will get close enough that I can bite your face, and I'm not going to bite you because you're safe to me. So 7, halfway is kissing. More than halfway is kissing. This picture, I'm going to say this is a romance reader. I want this feeling. Look at her face. Look at his face. Give me this. Hugs are, and notice how they're still hugging waist and shoulders, but look at the peace and calm. Eyes are closed, noses are just barely touching, and they have not kissed. And if they've never kissed, they can still stand this way. They are breathing the same air, they're in the same space, and humans are frontal thinking creatures. Everything they're doing, their hands, their bodies, their bellies, are in sync, and this is their focus. And this, I want to show you, this is what a first kiss should look like. No hands, not, and if you imagine leaning in for that first kiss. And if you read leaning in that first kiss, for that first kiss, that's actually accurate. Leaning in, cocking the head, inching forward like I am to you, and the lips touch. And they may not kiss deeply, they might just be a peck. Then they'll have to turn the noses, right, so we can get good access. But that is what a first kiss or the start of a makeout session looks like. Just the lips touching barely into better. And French kissing is step 2 of kissing. Mouth's closed and then the mouth open, and however you tongue and wherever you want around the lips. This is step 7. Again, and they will pause and kiss again, but they're staying mouth to mouth. And so the kind of things they say and do. This one, there may be talking and may not. What I like the best is in the middle of a good makeout session, they have to catch their breath and someone says something against their face. Against her lips, he said, man, you know what I mean? Whatever they're saying. And one thing I like about if you use the phases, you know that we're focused on the mouths right now. Draw it out, stretch it. Let me enjoy, let me relish, dig in, right? Especially if you have the muddy middle, put some stuff here to fill it in. But kissing begins and continues until it gets intense over time. If you have a Regency romance and they first kiss is upon the altar when they get married, it might be a peck, but we all know what's going to happen on the chariot as soon as the windows get closed. The lovers get close and their faces nearly touch until they do. And that is why when you see a little kid romance or a young adult romance where they kind of get really close and then all of a sudden they kiss and it scares them and they startle back, they can't help but try to lean in. They can't help but get closer. So, and then we go hand to head. And I ask you this question, regardless of whether you could kiss them or not, who can touch your ears? Who can grab your neck? So just think about this couple. These people, they've kissed because her hands are on her head. Who am I safe enough to touch my head? They've kissed me and they haven't bitten me. I haven't been bitten and I haven't been bonked, that head bunk, I've kissed them. Now we're starting to move to the other body parts. And we start with the head, very vulnerable. So lips start and then hands go there. And I like this. There's a reason why that scene with Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire and that Spider-Man upside down kiss is awesome and frankly kind of hot, especially the way she moves his mask without showing his face. Really like it. How fun is this? If you want to have a fun, upbeat, especially young adult, and it's kind of fun for 50-year-olds as well, why not show them kissing like this? Why not showing her grabbing his ears and kissing him? And especially the upside down. Let's have some fun. This is kind of a Hallmarky one or a love time in the grass, right? We do this all the time. I want you to look at his face though. How much is he enjoying her hands on his head? I mean, look at that. Does your guy like his head touched? How connected to someone? Their eyes are closed. They're in the moment. They're living right here and now. And look at those faces. Let me relish just being with someone I adore. Same idea. Okay. Hand to head. These are kind of things that happen. Fingers will start to explore. So I want to point out the bottom bullet here. A lot of love stories, he will grab her or she will grab him and pull him in for the kiss. That feels a little weird, and some people will not like that. The other person, by grabbing your ears, is forcing you into the kiss. They're not waiting for you to reach out. And in general, when this happens, and especially in the stereotypical is the bodice buster, novels of the 70s and 80s, he grabs her and kisses her, right? He is so overcome with lust, he can't help himself. He grabs her and pulls her and kisses her. The way she either runs screaming because he's attacked her, or he lets her go and then she comes back because she enjoys it. So what happens is they regain permission and consent if whoever was grabbed, when they let go, and they're allowed time to come at it on their own. And so depending on it, especially if it's one of those seduction style romances, which I think are wrong, but as an idea, if someone's pushing the envelope, if the other person joins in or comes back or has a chance to do the first kiss the next time, that's how they regain safety and intimacy because they can drive and they can say no, and that person will actually wait for them. If you're always the one to grab them for the kiss and they never initiate on their own, that's a sign of trouble in the relationship, that you're either not allowing them to consent or they don't know how to say no and stop or back off. And especially if you have someone who's been abused or traumatized, it's a sign of maybe we're not ready. Okay. So hand to body. After we've touched the head, we start going. And the way Morris talks about it, once we got past death and ripping the head off, then we're talking about sex and babies. So the hands and mouth will go outward in towards the erogenous zones or the genitals. And if you think about it, shoulders and hands are kind of safe. We've now hit ears and neck, body, and it will go far, close, close, close. If you start, they'll start, and we do this all the time, and we go pretty fast. She reached for the t-shirt as his waist and raised it up, and then went for his belly, and then went down. They kind of make their way in, and the fingertips up the arm, the toes up the knee. Same idea, hand to body, and we get closer and closer, closer. So various body parts. If he can touch her knee like that, if she can touch his belly right there, if they can have their legs sitting on each other, they are definitely in space and they're getting close to the areas. If you've been in a yoga or an exercise class, who can have their hands on your thigh or your belly? I point out this one, although when I do this, the doors are closed, not open, but if you want to do a progression through a car sex scene, the pelvises are usually parallel, and one of them has to turn so that we can go to stuff like this. As you see here, they're sitting and resting. There might be pausing, and maybe they're in public and they're actually not going to have sex in the car. But notice where his hands are on her bare legs. Notice where her hand is. Her hand could be in his shirt. Her hand could be up or lower. But who can touch your bare skin through your placket? Who can have their hands on your bare legs in public? And then also for fun, maybe it spices up the fact that they're in public. This one, I just want to show you this feeling. We don't know where her hand is, but if her hand happens to be cupping his butt and pulling it closer, she is holding him in more than one place and she's resting against his body. This is a kind of an intense embrace, a very connection without being a tight hug. They can hold this way for a long, long time, and she could have her hand on any part of his body. So the kind of things that happen here. By the way, we flirt with this when it comes to sunscreen. Rub my back, right? When you were a teenager and you went to a party and you're looking at the couples and trying to figure out who's have sex, if he's rubbing her back or she's rubbing his shoulders, they're getting there. They're step 9. This is also where we get really close to petting, but this is where we start touching and we start that. But I want to talk about it that this is where clothing becomes optional because these are our fingers. Do I want to feel this texture or do I want to feel the skin? And they're going for skin and they're playing with hair and they're going for the person, not the outfit. And frankly, if you're wearing a good sequin dress, that gets kind of prickly. And this is where the mouth goes. Same idea. Closer and closer. If they're rubbing my back, the next thing is I might start kissing. And the kisses that go down the face and down the shoulder, that's step 10. Haven't hit the hoo-hoo areas, but we're getting there. So kisses are not on they're on the body besides the lips. And it can be anything and anywhere. And depending on the fetish, toes, ankles, chest. If you were laying, I was thinking about a scene where they're laying in kind of a bundle at a late night party, and she's leaning across his back. And if she reaches over and kisses his ear from the back, that's it. You have to be to this point, okay? This is a great ear kiss. If you like this, I wanted to say, if you like a good ear kiss, what's happening to her body right now, and what is she thinking? Say, think, or do. Oh, by the way, let me back up. He's feeling her hair, he's smelling her ears. Liz, what other things would you describe right here? Is she pushing him away or is she holding him closer? What other kind of things could you add to this picture?
Oh, she's giggling, happy,
Yes.
wanting to come closer, so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if her hand's coming like this to pull him closer, right? And she might tilt to make it easier. So think of the progression. Yeah. Okay, so the things that happen when the mouth starts moving. We talked about that, and it goes from areas furthest from the genitalia and move closer. I want to make a comment here. Americans are all about boobs being sexual. Other societies, boobs are for babies and they're not sexual. That's why topless doesn't matter in some places, but our boobs are very sexual, and so I appreciate it accordingly. And if you need to be erotic, you can mention the nipple, okay? But more and more skin gets bared because we're getting closer and closer. What does it take to get from the belly to the groin? How much clothing has to be moved or taken off to get that far? And the closer the lips are to the spots, the closer they are to sex. And that's kind of why I just want to point out here when you have the teenagers that have these, they think that they're still virgins because they haven't actually copulated. They've gotten really darn close and it's okay, but they need to be talking, they need to be understand that they are making intimate connections that are pretty deep and they're only a step away too from lifetime connections. Okay. In any case, so hand to genitals. So get really close. Hands go there first in general. Hands go there first in general. And if you want to think, and I hate to be gruesome with you guys, but if someone's giving someone a job, they're going to go for the zipper and pull it down, remove the member, and then perform the action with the mouth. Hands go first. And if it's a normal sex or if they're doing a lot of exploration, the naked to naked will body until they get there. Okay. And especially the scenes where it's a long drawn out sex scene and someone's really working on the female, because sometimes females we need a little warming up. They will touch everything but, and then they'll get there. And that's how I get to that almost scene. So kind of things I'm showing you, these are over the clothing. But I want you to notice the proximity to the areas where you could be touched by a lover. Notice how close they are, and frankly, I think that's why this people have wedding rings on for their clip art because they're that close. They are touching the areas. I just put this one out there. If you like underwater scenes, where are his hands and what are they doing and where are her legs? This is where we are, people. Step 11, if they are at a public place, whether or not they've gotten to this point in the bar or they're going to a bar having already been to this place, notice how they'll keep contact with each other because later tonight, you know what's going to happen. Wink, wink, wink. And that's how you can build the anticipation in your love story. They can plan it before they do it, and that can draw out some of the excitement. And imagine your action murderer coming in here. Okay, so and so the things they say here, the lips get close, or they got close, and now the hands are going there, and they will actually touch. And clothing that was optional is now restrictive. And I consider overtly sexual acts start here because we're dealing with sexual body parts. And then we get to sex. So I don't have any pictures of this, but I'm going to show you pictures and I want you to think about this. Once the hands and lips have been there, and maybe I've got it backwards. Let's go back. I'll have to check that. Maybe it's lips touch and then hands touch. Uh, I'll have to check that real quick. But in any case, genitals is the last stage. Once the hands have been there and the lips have been there or close, that's when sex starts. So I just want you to think about the physical way, and this, let me say this. If these couples have had sex, or you want to, whether you write the sex scene or not, if you want to leave off at a certain place, or if you want to set up your sex scene properly, look at this couple and describe what they're doing because they're starting active sex. And if you don't show me this before copulation, there's a buildup to sex and things happen. Describe them if you're going to do a sex scene. Get me to this point. I want to say for us, if we were looking at this picture, hands are in some really groovy places. I put this one out here to talk about shower scenes and kissing out of the pool scenes. These scenes can be really hot and people move from the bed to the shower and the shower and bed. Doesn't matter, although I think shower sex is dangerous because I'm a klutz. But if you want to look at this scene, what were they doing before here? What will we be doing after here? What are they doing right here? Did they pause to kiss as the hands and lips were moving? And then this scene, I want to show you this couple because what if they can't have sex, but they're deeply safe with each other? I want to show ultimate connection. They are not only nose to nose, face to face, but their areas are touching, if not close. And for instance, if she's just had a baby and can't have sex right now, this is a way for them both to comfort each other while they wait until they can have sex. And it's also pretty fun. If you have never had the chance to try this particular stance, clothed or not, why are they feeling this way? Why are they sitting this way? Why not? Let's relish this. You don't have to get right to the, you can do it. And then we get to the right to it. And I just want to point this scene here. What does it take to have legs between legs? How do you get there? Where are the areas? Pause in the middle. I do want to say that some people with their sex scenes, especially if they want to be a very sexual thing where they have it a few times, a common way to do it is so excited that it's quick the first time and they're slow the second or third time. What do we do in between? This is what we do in between. Would you agree, Liz? This is what we do in between. And we stay in full contact as the blood flows, as we catch our breath, as all that stuff that we don't talk about in public. This is what happens. So sex is sex is sex. Um, I think oral sex right here. Desmond's a little touchy on that. So oral sex, put it where it feels good to you because some people like oral sex, people don't like oral sex. There's also taboos and not, but I think oral sex goes here because I think that I everything else we fingers and then we kiss or taste. So that's my personal opinion. But if no actual sex happens, they can be genital to genital. They can be that close. Sitting on someone's lap is really close, is really 12. So if you've kissed them and then you're on their lap and you feel a little unsettled, it's because you're really touching these parts and we're not quite there yet. Although I'll talk about that in one of our review pictures. But if you think about this, and the lovers will have sex or be signaled they're ready for sex. And if you write advanced sex scenes or erotica, the sex will progress based on what they want to do and whatever you're writing. Because if you're fully to this point, and you work through what you want to do next together, the sky is the limit, as humans have proved over centuries. Okay, whatever you want to do for this, swings, tails, I don't care. You guys decide it yourself. I also want to point out that to get this level for BDSM, they have a verbal contract, they've talked it through, and they can go right to sex because they're safe through the contract. And if you have a novel where the love scene starts from like a BDSM situation or a sex for money contractual relationship that gets to love, they'll go back and do all these things, but this will be first, and then they'll go back to one and they'll start talking and they're still touching. But this is sex can happen this way if you get them safe first. So this is the big tamale. Now, having got you, I'm sorry if you're a clean writer or a closed door sex person. We do have all flavors, okay? And we do go from clean to spicy, from 5-year-olds to 80-year-olds who've been practicing. So this is a review. And like I said, you notice that mouth to genitals is not on there. So I think some people can put mouth to body and have the mouth involved. Some people put genitals to genitals, have the mouth involved. But this is the 12 steps to review the things that happen here. They looky, they talky, they touchy. And as they go through, looks, touching, talking continues all the way through. And if you have the muddy middle or you have a relationship that you're not sure is selling, it's the muddy middle here. I find where I don't have enough in some of my readers, or as a reader, some of my books don't give me enough. Get me to kissing between 4, 5, and 6. Get me to kissing without skipping 4, 5, and 6. And after kissing, get me to sex without skipping 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. I don't, and frankly, when the hands start going, we're all the way to sex. But maybe I want to play with the ears. Maybe I want to explore the body. Maybe the afternoon before, we can have something like they stop and have dinner and touch a little bit before something happens and they don't have sex till that night. Give me something after 7. Give me something before 7 because we figured out how to get them kissing. But I need to have more than this because this is a relationship and my body is showing my body is evidence. My actions are evidence that I'm building this relationship and I'm that safe with these people. And give me all the steps so I can build that in my mind as your reader. Walk me in their steps, move me in their actions. It's not just the words, it's not just the kissing. Show me that they're reaching for it, that they're holding on to each other, that they're in contact with each other. Because I need the physical side of this, and it's the hardest thing to describe is touch. Give me the touches. So let's talk about how this ties to real life stories. Um, okay, so We're going to start with this couple. Genitals are close. They are double holding and focus on one thing together. They're high, 9, 10, 11, if not sex. Okay. These guys, same idea. Genitals are touching. They have had or will be having sex. And frankly, I don't know if you can sit this way if you haven't been comfortable enough to have sex with them. They are working in the same chair. In this case, these guys, I don't think they've had sex yet. I think they're at step 5. They might have kissed because notice they're not touching. I think they went on a date. He's touched her hand and she sat down, and instead of sitting next to her, he's pushing the boundaries. He's trying to signal he could do it whenever she's ready by putting his head in her space because he can do nothing hard with his head but bite her. And notice he'd have to move. He's not in a biting position, right? And she's kind of signaling that maybe she could be talked into it because look at her skirt. If you have worn something that opens from the top or opens from the bottom, if you felt uncomfortable, would your skirt be open to mid-thigh? She did not close her skirt. He could get there. His hands could do it. She is basically unconsciously even unconscious of the fact that her skirt has, as she sat down, we all know when our skirts are showing, right? We've been trained. It's cold for number one. And plus we've been taught to be ladylike and not show your hoo-ha. But in any case, she has not closed her skirt. He's testing and she's not saying no. This one, revisiting this one again, if we consider the boobs a genital area, she's touching his and he's touching hers. However they're configured, they're in contact with all of the most important areas. And what I want you to focus on here, they are in proximity to tell body to body that I'm here with you, you are mine, but look at that face. If you want to talk about a loving look, you can enhance the feeling I have because he has his hand here and he's just staring at her. And this could go on for as long as I want to sit here and read your page. I can relish this. Give me a pause so I can really feel it. And again, like I talk about horror and speculative fiction and such, they are busy being in love with each other and then something else happens. And that's how you use a love story to really amp up your horror, for instance, as our good friend Liz knows. Okay, and this is the last one again. I want to put a spin on this. She's not as close to him as they can't kiss him from here, but lovers who are in contact with each other, she is backing up so he can clearly see her face, and then she'll move back in. This is one of those things, if you imagine doing this and that, and if you think about, if you watch kids joking with their, oh, come on, they back up and then they come back. That's what this is, right? Give me this. She laughs and backs away, grabs his hand tighter, and then leans in. Show me the movement because that's her signal to him. She's still in with it. She's not backing away to get away from him. She's making sure that he can see how happy she is before she gets closer. Because think about humans, if you're nose to nose, you can't see the grin. And that's what she's doing. She's showing him she's happy. Okay, and when you put this all together, this is the in your handout. They'll reach it, they'll keep going. They'll skip things based on circumstance and practice, and nature nurture plays here. Start or stop will you feel comfortable. If you don't want to talk about a sex scene, you can stop at kissing. No one's saying you have to go that far. If you go that far, though, these are the steps to go in between. And you can make your readers uncomfortable by going against the norm, whether it's the love scene or not. If you want to make him uncomfortable, have someone grab his butt when he hasn't talked to them. Okay, you can really show the ooh. Okay, also tailor for your audience. There are cultures where you do not walk side by side. There are cultures where you don't kiss in public. Don't make them kiss in public. They don't kiss in public. And if that carries into the bedroom and they have difficulty getting to the intimacy because the culture is so thick, use that. It's the culture. That's part of the story. And the best part about doing this is when you go in reverse, you can undo the love. So if this is a divorcing couple, however they stop doing 12 through 1, why can a divorced couple live in the same house? They don't look at each other. They don't talk. They don't hold hands. And they're definitely not doing any of the other stuff. They have undone it all. And if you want to talk, if you want to start a romance by you're going the other way, the breakup of a romance because that's your story. He's not into the sex anymore. It's not comfortable for her anymore. And don't touch me. And get your hands off me. Backwards, backwards, backward. And he goes to kiss her and she moves. Okay. She goes to kiss him and he ducks. Or he's not home. They stop and they quit doing it. And you can illustrate that by the same thing of the offer was given and it was denied. Okay. And if they're both not doing, they're both not interested and you can show it. Little Bobby noticed his parents never held hands anymore. They used to hold hands. Does that make sense? So this is plot. If your romance is unrequited love, one lover looks, the other one never looks back. A cousin of unrequited love is obsessive love. And in reality, the one's not looking back, but the obsessive person might be thinking they're looking back. Clean romance, historical Christian, don't care. Somewhere between 7 and 8, do they kiss or not? I like how they kiss and then the hands reach out and pull the necks together. I really like the fingers in the hair. And I really like the hands around here. And I do like the turning of the mouth when you're kissing. Okay. But do it yourself. I'm telling you, every Jane Austen movie I've seen, he doesn't grab her. It's a lip, hands only, no hands, lip only kiss. But I do like the hands on it when you're kissing. That's if I hold my hands around your head, it gives me leverage as I open my mouth and move. Okay. Example 3, closed door or not. I have to show you enough that you know when they go in that room and come out pregnant that sex happened. And you go through all the steps and you show the things you feel like showing. You can refer to these things happening. I have a sex scene where you don't give very much detail other than they did it more than once. But the next morning she's grunting as things hurt as she's trying to find her bra. Okay. So I had them mouth to body, shut the door, next morning pick up the bra. And erotica semi, and this is me. Now, as we pause here, I had a question in our conference I want to share with you guys. So if I have this right here, all the steps, how do we make them up? Make sure I got just enough time. Okay, so I'll be quick, Liz. So this is a book by Mary Below. It's called The Secret Pearl. It is a Regency romance with I bought it at a bookstore, out of print, 1991. She's written a lot. If you find an author you like, you find her wherever you can. This story, and remember, love stories, the intensity is halfway through, so we don't know if they'll stay together, but they're starting to get together. This scene, she is a baronet's daughter in Regency England. He is a duke. Her parents are dead. Her cousin guardian, who's 5 years older, has been watching her as she grows up. And one weekend, his mother and sister leave the house that they all share, and he takes advantage of her and tries to get her in the library. She freaks, she throws a statue, knocks people out, and she's out the door with the clothes on her back and whatever she has in her pocket, and she ends up in London. And she's a well-dressed, destitute woman in London in 1820. And she goes to the employment agencies and no one will hire her because they think she's a soiled dove. And she finds herself hungry after days, and she stands outside the theater to prostitute herself so she doesn't die of starvation. She cannot go back. She has no resources. And the Duke, who's in London for other reasons and looking for just the solace of someone who will love him, finds her, takes her, they do the deed. She's horrified. It kills her, whatever. Circumstances change. And the Duke, who's an honorable guy who's actually never paid for a prostitute before, feels so bad about it, and he knew the quality of her clothes afterwards. Like afterwards, he realized and she was a virgin. He realizes what he's done. His conscience gets to him, and he brings her to one of his households to try to make amends, to try to make it right. Had he known that she needed assistance, if she'd asked for charity, he would have given her the same money. He's that kind of guy, but she was trying to start. And so midway through, she is at his house, and she's having been predatored by her cousin. Is sure the Duke's going to predator her. I'm going to read this for you because they have had sex. They haven't even kissed yet to this point, but they're healing a relationship because the circumstances why they had sex and the circumstances caused her wounds. So how does she come back from that? So Um, she heard herself whimper and stilled both body and mind. Stilled, like be still. The knowledge of what she was doing with whom. This is the nightmares she's been having about him. She would not let her nightmares intrude into the waking moment. And it was but for a moment, just for this moment only. His shoulders were broad and firm beneath her arms, his hair thick and silky beneath her fingers. His mouth moved from hers to the last to kiss her cheeks, her eyes, her temples, and he wrapped both arms around her, held her arched into him, and set his cheek against the top of her head. And as she runs back to her room, because this was a little bit quick in their first kiss, um, she realizes this is what her thoughts are as the chapter ends. She had allowed a married man, her employer, to take incredible liberties with her person, and the encounter had not been all one-sided. She had wanted him to. It was from herself she has fled, but she had brought herself right into her room behind its locked door. That's how you come back from something like this. And like I said, that's the middle of the book. And so if circumstances mean that the love progression was broken, they have to try to heal the parts, and they will either do the ones they'll miss, go back to the troublesome ones, and you can show me that. This is a book where she doesn't really talk about it like rape, but it's not consensual. It's one of those really questionable love stories. I think this is why it's old, because I don't know if this would fly nowadays, but she did a really good job. She was very sensitive and she worked the lovers through it. And at the end, what happens is as she's healing from it, all of the guys who are scared her and she's been a victim of replace the Duke's face. And this gal also likes to include the Napoleonic Wars. So her Duke was in Waterloo and has scars. That's why he was scary looking, because he's covered with scars, but his actions were not scary. And as the excitement continues to ensue and the cousin comes back, she learns who's safe and who's not safe by how they treat her. And over time, their love relationship with the Duke heals. I won't tell you if they make it because it's really close. And frankly, this one is one of those last page. You don't know to the last paragraph. It's awful, but it's also awesome. So if that helps you, if they have a reason to go too far or do something they shouldn't have, once the reason has been healed, if they want to keep going, and this works for someone who's been victimized, okay, or hurt, they work on those parts they can. Some they might have to permanently alter or always leave, but they'll use the other steps to feel safe and they'll regain that. And that's why people who have been very damaged go on and find a loving partner and find true happiness later with another person. And that kind of hope, that's the best romance, I frankly think, because think about the human. You've got a young 18-year-old virgin human, and you've got a 18-year-old raped and wants to get back to life human. We all want to hope that we can overcome the worst. And that's the kind of romance that I think is most intense and frankly the most awesome. And one of the things to think about, sometimes our readers are looking for themselves, and sometimes they're healing themselves, and sometimes your romance might be the only positive or hopeful or helpful version of a romance they've ever seen. Think about the kind of ways that humans have sex, and that causes babies, and that causes an environment. They may have never seen a loving, building over time romance. So don't skip the steps. And so I'll close with that. With me, this is me. You can find me this way. I have 7 books. Number 8's coming. So thank you, Liz. Thank you for the opportunity. And I hope that helps your romances go better. And if you need me, reach out. Thank you guys.
Great. Thanks, Virginia.